Thank you all. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. And Pastor, I want to say Pastor Flowers, I want to say thank you. Thank you for having us here. Thank you for hosting us here. I see my pastor over in the corner, so I hope you don't mind me saying today is a day that the Lord hath made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. This is a powerful day. And I want to start, President Ferguson. It's not just a joy to have you as a friend and a partner in this work, but also a real thought partner and a leader. And I'm grateful for not just the introduction, but I'm grateful for the fact that your leadership is a big reason why we are here today. Just to be able to share this stage with people who I don't just respect and admire, but I will follow anywhere. Speaker Jones, another person, just so grateful for all you continue to do for each and every one of us. Our fantastic mayor, Mayor Scott, just thank you and bless you. And you're right, progress is happening. I think about the work of Dr. Shanacia Sauls, who I've known now for decades. And I continue to be proud of you, my friend, and everything you continue to do. And Councilwoman Porter, who I think about what it means to show a level of nonstop commitment and devotion to a community, and that's you, and that's what you just continue to do. And every so often, my phone rings in the middle of the night. And the one thing I've come to learn is that when my phone rings in the middle of the night, it's never good news. And about 7 months ago, I got one of those calls. And I got a call from Mayor Scott. And Mayor Scott told me that there was a mass shooting in Brooklyn. And immediately, we identified what the community needed in both the short and the long term. Immediately, we mobilized agencies and coordinated law enforcement so Marylanders could get the support that they needed. Immediately, I knew that Mayor Scott, nor I, nor so many people who were the first responders, their getting sleep that night was done. And that night, while we focused on the tragedy that stood in front of us, in the days and the months after, I was enabled to shake a much deeper and a much more enduring tragedy that was taking place in this community. Because in Maryland statewide, the median household income is $98,000. In Brooklyn, the median income is $35,000. In Maryland statewide, about 1 in 10 students will not finish high school. In Brooklyn, 1 in 3 students will not finish high school. In Maryland statewide, about 1 in 8 children are living in poverty. In Brooklyn, about 1 in 2 children are living in poverty. And the reality is that we've seen these numbers consistent in Brooklyn for well over a decade. These statistics, these trends, they tell a story. And they tell a story that this community has gone unseen. This community has gone unheard. This community has gone underestimated. It's a story that we keep witnessing all over our state, from Mountain, Maryland, all the way to the Eastern Shore and everywhere in between. It's a story that repeats itself, that if you were born into poverty, chances are you will die in poverty. So we owe it to our people to disrupt these patterns that drive pain, that drive hardship, and that drive tragedy. We owe it to our state to unlock the promise of our communities. And so today, we stand here, this remarkable room of public servants and leaders. We stand here and we do say enough. Enough of wasted potential, enough of cycles of crime, enough of lost opportunities. And I'm honored to stand with our partners in government and community to unveil the Enough Act. This bill, which the Moore-Miller administration and Madam Lieutenant Governor, I'm so proud and thankful to be your partner inside this work. This bill continues the frontal assault on child poverty that we launched on our inauguration day. And this bill will be the first of its kind in the nation coming from a state. Enough will channel targeted private philanthropic and state resources towards communities across our states with high rates of generational child poverty. And instead of just freely spreading money around, we're going to target the places that are most in need of our help and also place the right accountability around that capital. And we're going to do it in a way that follows local and national best practices. For years, leaders in the private sector and philanthropic community have been driving change by focusing on places and people, and it's time now for government to catch up. It's time now for state government to be able to put a place-based focus on the way that we do our work too. Because you see, this legislation is not just about a renewed focus on poverty. This legislation represents a new way of governing. We believe in following the data. We believe in efficient and effective investments. And most importantly, we believe that the people who are closest to the problems are the ones closest to the solutions. We just need to make sure that they're at the table. Government can provide resources and expertise and collaboration, but to truly address challenges like poverty, you need to recruit the people who are already on the ground. We need to recruit people like Pastor Flowers, who's a pillar of the community. We need to recruit community organizations that are doing the work. The people who've been fighting these fights for their whole lives, they know their neighborhoods, they know their communities, and we desperately need your help to make sure that we can get it right. Because every community is unique, and every community faces unique challenges. Maybe in your community, there's no job training where you live. Maybe in your community, there's no transportation. Maybe in your community that the nearest healthcare provider is actually across state lines. Maybe in your community, it's not safe for kids to play after school. Maybe in your community, local entrepreneurs aren't able to access the capital that can help them to grow their businesses. Maybe in your community, the answer is just yes. It's all of it. When it comes to communities struggling with poverty, there are likely many problems that need to be addressed all at once, and our village elders know what those problems are and how to fix them. And so that's why this legislation calls on community leaders to come together and create comprehensive plans on how to make their neighborhoods better. The premise of the Enough Act is simple. Leaders in our communities will provide the vision. The state will provide the support, and not the other way around. We will fund winning proposals with a mix of public and private money. We will build partnerships with communities so they can benefit from the muscle and the coordination of government, and we will do so through the Governor's Office for Children, led by the spectacular leadership of Carmel Martin. And I want to be clear. We aren't asking neighborhoods to craft proposals by themselves. We've laid out clear guidelines and guidance for the kinds of priorities that we want these proposals to include. And that means we want to create safe and thriving communities in urban, rural, and suburban parts of our state. We want to support healthy and economically secure families in urban, rural, and suburban parts of our state. We want to ensure access to high-quality education and high-quality health care for our children, from cradle to career in urban, rural, and suburban parts of our state. The proposals we're asking for will give us a roadmap for elevating our communities that's written by our communities and not simply for them. We will lean on these roadmaps to guide our work and hopefully guide the work of others in state government as well. And we're going to learn about our neighborhoods through this initiative, because the more we learn, the better we can strategize. Because history tells us that money means little without strategy. Let's not forget the 1990s. Tens of millions of dollars from philanthropy flooded into Sandtown, Winchester to revitalize a community. 2 decades later, Freddie Gray was arrested in that neighborhood and killed in police custody. And after his death, Millions more went into Sandtown, Winchester. What's the result? Today, the poverty rate in Sandtown, Winchester is more than double the state average. Decades later. Money is important. Strategy is imperative. We need to spend smarter. We need to spend wiser across state programs in a way that follows the data and responds to the needs of the community, and that's exactly what the Enough Act is all about. Together, we will help transform distressed communities into places with top schools and good jobs and safe communities and quality housing and economic momentum. That's the future that we're trying to build. That's the future that our communities deserve. And we're going to build it in partnership with each and every one of you. And that includes our two presiding officers. And I have to tell you how much it means to all of us that not just that you're here, and not just your full-throated support for this piece of legislation, but for the leadership you continue to show. And I'm grateful to have both of you as partners inside this work. Their presence sends a message that fighting child poverty is not just the priority of the Moore-Miller administration. Fighting child poverty is the aspiration of our entire state. We've got a lot of work ahead of us. But today, we take a big step forward. And we believe the positive effects of this legislation will ripple out across every single corner of our state. That the community partnerships that apply to join this initiative will lead our battle to end child poverty statewide. They'll test and prove new approaches that we can spread. And by lifting more Marylanders out of poverty, we will build a more competitive Maryland for everybody. You know, when I was at Robin Hood, the largest poverty fighting organization in this country, and I see my former colleague, Fritz Bondo, is now at the Harlem Children's Home. It's great to see you, man. I remember people would say to us that, you know, poverty is a choice. And I remember what I'd say in response: you're right. Poverty is a choice. But it's not the choice of the person who wakes up in the morning with the weight of poverty on their shoulders. It's society's choice. It's a legislative choice. It's a policy choice. In many cases, we're talking about places that have been the victims of not just generational poverty, but the victims of also creative policies that have created the generational poverty, like redlining and unfair appraisal values. There is a measure, and Mr. Mayor, you said it best, there is a measure of intentionality that drives concentrated poverty. So there needs to be a measure of intentionality about the way that we are going to address it. And that's why we continue to name poverty as a challenge and one that we will defeat. Enough will be the rallying cry, not just here in Baltimore, but across the state of Maryland, that we have had enough with poverty. We've had enough with crime. We've had enough with a system where generational challenges go unaddressed. We've had enough where we continue to put policies in place and get the same results and never change our political framework. Today, we say we have had enough with the same neighborhoods facing the same issues and coming up with the same solutions. Now is the time to invest enough. Now is the time to do enough. Now is the time to partner enough. Enough. Engaging neighborhoods, organizations, unions, governments, and households. That's what enough stands for. And it's more than an acronym. It's our new governing philosophy. With that philosophy in our minds and hearts, we will work together. We will build a state that leaves no one behind. And we are going to make this moment matter.